So think about this for a second. What actually happens to a doctor's critical thinking skills when an AI can just diagnose a super complex case in like 3 seconds? I mean, do we lose our edge? Do we just become completely reliant on the machine? Well, today we are unpacking a really radical new paradigm in medical training, and it's called Vibrowns. Coined by Dr. Avinash Kumar Gupta, this whole concept is absolutely not about teaching doctors how to use AI to get faster answers. It's actually about using AI to build stronger human minds, and that's exactly what Vibrowns is. It's a clinical reasoning gym. We're going to explore how this system deliberately creates friction, yeah, friction, to force clinicians to think harder, and how it exposes the invisible mental frameworks they use literally every single day. If you've been following the intersection of healthcare and AI, this explainer is going to completely flip how you view the relationship between the two. And honestly, why this matters is simple. It means better, sharper, and safer doctors for all of us. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand Vibrowns, we first kind of have to look at traditional medicine's factory floor, which is bedside SOPs, or standard operating protocols. These are rigid algorithms, basically recipes designed for immediate bedside safety and efficiency. If a patient's heart stops, you don't stand around debating the philosophy of the human body, right? You just follow the protocol. It's highly structured, but here's the thing. It doesn't teach you how to think. Vibrowns, on the other hand, is the gym. It's a platform built entirely for deliberate practice and long-term skill development. Think about a physical gym. The whole point of going there is resistance. You don't go to the gym to have a machine lift the heavy weight for you. You go so the machine can give you the exact right amount of resistance to tear down and rebuild your muscle. Vibrowns operates the exact same way, just for clinical reasoning. It's a cognitive gym where doctors can practice wrestling with clinical uncertainty, but in a totally safe, simulated environment. And this brings us to a massive, very real fear in the medical world right now, that AI is just going to become this answer oracle. Basically, a cheap cheat code that makes human doctors lazy. Because, if you just type a patient's symptoms into a standard AI, it spits out a diagnosis. The clinician's cognitive load just drops to zero. And over time, their diagnostic muscles basically atrophy. But Vibrance flips the script on that entirely. It positions AI not as an oracle, but as a Socratic sparring partner. So instead of giving you the answer, it uses multimodal AI as a cognitive assistant that actively challenges your assumptions, brings up common reasoning biases for that specific scenario, and maybe offers a second opinion. It supports the direction of your cognitive work, not the final conclusion. It's just a completely different, way healthier way of interacting with technology. So the crucial point here is captured perfectly by Dr. Avinash Kumar Gupta, the architect behind this whole framework. He says, not AI that answers, AI that questions. That right there is the foundational philosophy of Vibrowns. The system is deliberately designed to withhold the answer from you. Think of like a truly great attending physician or a really wise mentor. When you present a tricky case to them, they almost never just hand you the diagnosis on a silver platter. I mean, that would completely rob you of the learning opportunity. Instead, they'll ask you, okay, why do you think that? Or, what might you be missing here? Vibrowns uses some really carefully engineered prompt architecture to force large language models to play that exact same mentor role. Formally, we call this Socratic AI. It's a paradigm that augments clinical reasoning through structured questioning, guided discovery, and reflective dialogue. And the absolute key operating phrase here is rather than direct answers. This turns the AI into a wise mentor that guides you through the messiness of clinical uncertainty, but without fighting the battle for you. It shifts learning from just passively absorbing a textbook or a lecture to aggressively stress testing your own mental models. And remember, it's an educational tool, strictly not for live patient care, which means it's a completely safe sandbox to just be wrong in. Because let's be honest with ourselves, we'd way rather our doctors make their mistakes in a digital gym than in a real-world emergency room, right? What's really fascinating is that this Socratic approach actually scales across a clinician's entire career. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So in the preclinical years, the AI acts as just a friendly foundational tutor. It uses simple analogies to build up basic knowledge in anatomy and physiology. Fast forward to the clinical year, and it shifts to acting like a supportive intern on the ward, helping a med student notice, say, red flags in their very first patient presentations. Then, for a postgraduate doctor who is suddenly facing high-pressure decisions, the AI pushes them to identify the single most time-critical action they need to take right that second. And finally, during residency, the AI transforms into this tough, Socratic attending physician, actively poking at and exposing soft spots in the resident's independent diagnostic reasoning. So the AI essentially scales its rigor to match your exact level of training. But here's the catch. To make this Socratic mentor actually work, it requires some seriously strict constraints. We call this the workout regimen. Because by default, large language models are total people pleasers. They are desperate to give you the answer as quickly as humanly or artificially possible. So Vibrounds employs strict prompt level constraints, basically hard rules that keep the AI honest to that philosophy of questioning. Without these constraints, the whole workout is completely ruined. The AI absolutely needs this rulebook to ensure it creates that vital cognitive friction we talked about. And arguably the most important of those constraints is the forced commitment rule. Think about it for a second. Have you ever been stuck on a problem using ChatGPT or whatever, and you just typed, I don't know, or IDK, just to see what it would spit out? Yeah, we've all done it. Well, Vibrounds actively blocks that behavior. If a learner types a bare, low-effort guess or just, I don't know, the AI will not rescue them. It hits a minimum effort threshold and gently redirects the learner, saying something like, nope, give me your best guess, your differential, or your next step. You literally have to put your own logic on the line. You have to commit to an answer before the AI will unlock any scaffolding or help. It totally prevents passive learning and ensures you are actually the one lifting the heavy cognitive weight. Once you do finally commit, Vibrounds uses this really smart system of tiered hints. First, the learner makes their guess. Only then does the AI offer a high-level framework hint. Now, if the learner is still struggling, the AI narrows the direction just a little bit more. And it isn't until the absolute final stage that the AI provides even a partial answer. Oh, and there's actually a 10-second delayed rescue rule built into this whole process. It deliberately pauses to prompt the learner to keep thinking instead of just mashing a button to reveal the next hint. Plus, the AI evaluates your reasoning and your prioritization along the way, not just whether you eventually fumbled your way to the correct final answer. It cares deeply about how you got there. And you can actually customize how tough your workout is by choosing your AI persona. Just starting out, you can prompt it to be a supportive intern. In this role, the AI identifies gaps in your assessment on a peer-to-peer level, gently asking if, maybe you want to double-check a specific vital sign. But if you're a glutton for punishment and want a grueling workout, you select the Socratic attending. This persona will absolutely not accept your diagnosis at face value. It will aggressively ask you why you ranked a disease first and what exactly you are anchoring on. Alternatively, the junior resident persona creates this intense, high-pressure environment, pushing you for time-critical actions and demanding to know your backup plan if your first intervention fails. You get to completely control the rigor of the cognitive gym. Now, moving beyond just the Q&A back and forth, Vibrounds operates what they call a clinical cognition operating system. And the main goal here is surfacing the invisible thinking, because clinical cognition is usually, well, entirely invisible. On a standard word round, you see a doctor's final diagnosis, but you don't see the messy reasoning, the hidden biases, or the quiet assumptions operating underneath that conclusion. Vibrounds acts like an MRI for clinical thinking. Using a library of over 57 specific reasoning modules, it breaks down your logic into its component parts. It forces all of that invisible internal processing out into the open, where it can finally be examined and improved. To really show you how powerful this is, let's look at one specific tool from that library, Module 42, which is known as the clinical pre-mortem. It starts by asking the clinician an incredibly provocative question. What if your top diagnosis is completely wrong? Normally, once a doctor settles on a diagnosis, they subconsciously start looking for evidence to confirm it. Module 42 forces a deliberate, structured pause. It acts as a targeted muscle audit, essentially making you completely reverse your thought process on the spot. The clinical pre-mortem literally forces you to imagine clinical failure in advance. If your patient just crashed because your diagnosis was dead wrong, what did you miss? This forces you to assume failure right off the bat, which instantly surfaces the hidden assumptions you made along the way. It actively audits your cognitive biases in real time, and crucially, it prevents premature diagnostic anchoring, which, if you don't know, is that really dangerous yet very human tendency to latch onto the very first plausible idea and just ignore any new evidence that contradicts it. It's a perfect example of using AI not to find the answer, but to deeply audit the human's pathway to the answer. But of course, we have to talk about the risks, right? Any AI system carries the risk of hallucination or just being wildly overconfident. That's why Vibrounds utilizes epistemic safeguards. And these aren't just external fact-checkers, they are prompt-level instructions woven into the very fabric of the AI's behavior. They strictly shape how the AI expresses uncertainty. For example, large language models love to sound precise, right? They'll confidently say things like, there is a 13.7% mortality risk. Vibrounds forces the AI to suppress that false numerical precision and instead preserve ordinal knowledge, simply stating something like, mortality appears moderate. It constantly calibrates the AI's confidence across diagnosis, evidence, and prognosis. This ensures the AI never sounds more certain than the literature actually allows, and more importantly, never ever overrides the clinician's ultimate judgment. Which brings us to the core thesis of this entire framework, and honestly, the biggest takeaway here. Not AI replacing doctors. AI giving doctors the cognitive bandwidth to be their best. The entire goal of Vibrance is to cultivate clinicians who have the profound critical thinking skills necessary to truly collaborate with highly advanced AI in the real world, rather than just relying on it blindly. Because think about it, if we only train doctors with answers, they won't have a clue what to do when the AI is wrong or when a case is highly ambiguous. By using AI as a cognitive gym, through forced commitments, Socratic questioning, and targeted audits, we build resilient, independent thinkers. And resilient thinkers make for truly exceptional doctors. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. As artificial intelligence becomes an inescapable part of modern medicine, we have a fundamental choice in how we use it. Are we ready to stop asking AI for answers and start letting it ask us the questions? The Vibrance paradigm suggests that the most powerful application of AI isn't actually in its ability to solve our problems, but in its ability to challenge our minds. It's a fascinating shift from technology as a crutch to technology as a catalyst for human brilliance. Well, that's all for this explainer. Keep thinking critically, and I'll catch you in the next one.